And so with that, you see here, Jasmin Graham, and I will stop sharing, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about mentorship, and I'm also going to tell you a little bit about Marseillais. So my name is Jasmin Graham, and I'm the project coordinator for Marseillais, which stands for the Marine Science Laboratory Alliance Center of Excellence. We are the lead institution is Mote Marine Laboratory, which is where I'm located at. And I'm currently in Sarasota, Florida at our main campus area. We also have a campus in the Keys. So the Sarasota campus is sitting on the ancestral lands of the Seminole Tribe of Florida, as well as the Toccoba people. And then the Keys facility is sitting on the lands of the Miccosukee people. So Mote is a really interesting institution. It's an independent marine research institution, which to my knowledge, there are only 12 in existence still in the United States. So we're not associated with an academic institution. We're not associated with the government. We're unaffiliated nonprofit. And we are really excited for the opportunity to work with LSAMP alliances in the Marine Science Laboratory Alliance Center of Excellence to connect schools and universities that don't have marine research facilities to independent marine labs like ourselves, where they can get that hands-on training. And so it's kind of a way to recruit, support, and retain minority students in marine science through undergraduate research experiences. The Marseillais grant is in its second year. So we were awarded this grant in September of 2019. And it's a 3-year grant for $1.5 million. Like I mentioned, Mote Marine Laboratory is the lead institution. We are working with 2 colleges, College of the Florida Keys, formerly the Florida Keys Community College, and then the State College of Florida. So both of these schools are now 4-year institutions as of last year. But most of the students are getting associate's degrees or transferring to 4-year institutions. So we're working with these colleges because they're located close to our Sarasota campus and our Florida Keys campus. And they're students that are interested in marine science, but don't have access. And so we want to be able to get them that marine science laboratory experience before they transfer to 4-year universities so that they are on track and have some experience underneath their belt going into their junior years at those 4-year institutions. We also work with 2 other independent marine research institutions, the Smithsonian, which is also located here in Florida, and the Perry Institute of Marine Science, which is located in Eleuthera in the Bahamas. Mote itself hosts about 200 research interns annually through 4 different programs. We have the NSFREU, which is funded by the National Science Foundation. We, of course, have our Marseillais program that takes students from those 2 schools that I mentioned specifically. We have Mote REUs, which are funded by philanthropy, so donations from donors. And then we have our college internship program, which goes beyond research and also allows students to get experience in our aquarium, as well as in our community relations, in our library, pretty much any facet of Mote that exists, aside from just the research labs. So our program is basically, we're trying to build a program that maximizes recruitment, support, and retention of minority students. And so what that looks like is we do a lot of recruiting of interns, but also recruiting of mentors to participate in our program. And these are mentors that have committed to working with underrepresented minority students and going through our training programs. So we have a mentor training program that we do. You'll see a small taste of this in just a second. And then we also do professional development for our interns. And the mentors and the interns have a little briefing meeting at the beginning where we do a little pre-assessment and survey, see how they're feeling about things. Then they go through the internship program and we assess at the end to see the growth in both the mentors and the interns following all of this training and all of this strategic modeling that we've put in place. And we continue to refine and model that until hopefully we have a model that can be used at other institutions like Smithsonian and Perry. So we have these 3 pillars that we're focusing on: guidance from the mentor, hands-on science experience, and professional and personal intern support. And these 3 pillars are what we think will be successful in improving sense of belonging in science, increasing science identity, and then also self-efficacy, which is the belief that you can do something. So that's pretty much the goals of Marseille summarized in about 5 minutes. All right, so let's get into mentorship. So mentorship is a professional working alliance. So the key here is alliance. And so it's a two-way street. Mentors are getting something from the mentees, as well as the mentees getting something from the mentors. And this is a partnership where you're trying to create career and psychosocial support. So not only helping people professionally, but also helping with those psychosocial things of feeling confident, feeling like they belong, feeling like this is something that they can do or they can achieve. Strong mentorship has been linked to a lot of really incredible things, which is one of the reasons why Marseille is so focused on mentoring. So strong mentorship has been linked to enhanced science identity, sense of belonging, and self-efficacy, which are the 3 things that we're trying to achieve with Marseille. It also leads to persistence, so that retention piece. People are more likely to stay in STEM if they have a strong mentor. It also makes folks more productive in their research and have a higher career satisfaction. And it also enhances the recruitment of underrepresented minorities. So really, it does all of the things that we're trying to do here at Marseille, which is why, again, we do a lot with the mentors as well, not just developing the interns or the students, but also the mentors as well, because that is a prolific situation where now every student they come in contact with is going to get that support that they need. All right, so the reason why mentor training and mentor development workshops are super important is because ad hoc mentorship often enforces bias and privilege. So whenever people are left to their own devices, they naturally are going to mentor people that are like them, whether that's looking like them, having the same culture as them, the same communication style as them, whatever. Because they don't feel like they have the tools to communicate or to support someone that has a different path or a different goal or a different cultural background than them. And this has been shown in the research a lot. Unfortunately, with getting funding, a lot of Black and Hispanic investigators are shown to be less likely to win research awards than their white counterparts. And when asked in surveys, they indicate the major obstacle to being able to obtain funding is having an adequate mentor or not having a mentor at all. Science faculty in another study rated a male applicant as more competent than an identical female applicant. Not only did that lead to a difference in salary, but it also meant that there are more career mentoring opportunities for the male applicant than for the female applicant. Also, underrepresented minorities and women, their mentorship requests are ignored more often than those by men, particularly white men. And then the male biologists, this was in a biology institution department specifically, were shown to be less likely to hire and train women. So again, that goes back to we tend to flock to what we're comfortable with. It's a lot easier to mentor someone that's a mini version of you. And, you know, we hear people say that a lot, saying, oh, you remind me of me at your age, because that's something that we are conditioned to as humans. And so if we don't train ourselves and think about things, we're going to enforce our own biases, and everyone is going to gravitate towards people that look like them, talk like them, think like them, and then we don't have diversity. So unfortunately, as it stands right now, underrepresented minority students are less likely to receive mentoring. If they have mentors, that mentoring is likely to be of lower quality. And so that's why we're really focused on mentorship today. A couple of barriers to effective mentorship. There's the commitment to wanting to stay with the tradition. So, that sense that, well, I had to go through this on my own, so you should have to go through this on your own, and not being willing to change. The tendency to place all of the responsibility on the mentee, saying things like, well, if you had a question, you should have asked, or if you needed help with this, why didn't you say so? But the issue is that sometimes people don't know what they don't know. And so if it's not a two-way street of communication, the mentee might not feel comfortable coming to you. And so the responsibility is shared. It's a two-way street. It's a joint partnership, and that's important to remember. It's also important to remember that talent is equally distributed across all socioeconomic and cultural groups, but access and opportunity are not. And so whenever we think about judging people based on what their resume or CV looks like or what they look like on paper, you don't know the whole story. And there's also, like I said, that mentorship catch-22, where people want to mentor people that are quote unquote easy to mentor, whether that's they have a similar experience or they have more experience or what have you. And so some people are kind of pushed to the wayside because people perceive that they're going to be quote unquote more work to mentor. So some tools that you can use to really help your mentees. One that I really like is the individual development plan. And this is something that you can sit down with your mentees and think through what are their goals. So their immediate goals, their short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals, so that they can think about things on a smaller scale. A lot of times, particularly students, I know I was like this when I was an undergraduate student, all I was thinking about was getting to the end, and I didn't think about all of the steps in between. So if you have someone that says, I want to be a brain surgeon, all right, that is a great long-term goal. What are some intermediate goals that we can set on the way to that? Because if that is your goal, you're going to feel constantly frustrated because it's going to take you years to get there. So let's think about some goals so that we can have benchmarks and celebrate successes along the way of reaching that long-term goal. And once you get that long-term goal and all of those intermediate short-term goals, you can think about with your mentee, what skills do they already have? What experiences do they already have? How are they going to assess their progress towards that goal? Who do they need to support them to get to that goal? How can you support them to get to that goal so that they can tell you specifically what they need to be able to reach those goals? I'll also say a quick word about mentor-mentee compacts, which is a thing that can be useful sometimes, where you lay not only out this individual development plan, but also take it a step further and make an agreement of, I am going to agree to support you in these ways. This is how we're going to interact with each other and get a feel for what people need, what you need as a mentor from the mentee, what the mentee needs from you. Establishing boundaries, establishing that open communication can be really useful at the beginning of a mentor-mentee kind of matching. So mentor compacts can be a great way to do that. It's also important to think about the different ways that people communicate. And oftentimes when we're faced with someone that communicates in a way different than us, we kind of get a little stressed out about it. But it's not that anyone's right or anyone's wrong. It's just a different communication style. So there's 4 different communication styles that I kind of like to think about. There's the planners, there's the doers, there's the collaborators, and there's the creators. I am very much a doer. And so whenever I am interacting with some of my coworkers that are collaborators, I have to remember that they need time they want to talk about things. I can't just go run off and do things, even though that's my reaction. Something needs to be done, I'm going to do it. But I know that I am a doer, and I know everyone else on my team is a collaborator. And so I am going to pause and think to myself, okay, Jasmine, but everyone else on your team really likes to be included in this decision, so let's go talk to them. Or if you have someone that is a thinker, they might take a little bit longer to process. And so if you are a collaborator and you like to talk things out and you're working with someone that's a thinker, they might not be ready to talk immediately. They might need a little bit to process that information. So if you know what type of communicator you're dealing with, you can kind of compromise and figure out a way that your communication styles can kind of mesh. All right, so then we have the main functions of mentors. So like I said, there's the career and there's the psychosocial. The career, you're giving research support, helping them manage their career, whether that's building CVs or resumes or networking and all of those types of things. Identifying opportunities, so simply pointing out, hey, did you hear about this scholarship? Hey, did you hear about this graduate program? Did you hear about this? Being an advocate for them, saying, oh, I know a student that would be perfect for this. And then fostering that independence, helping them feel like, yes, you can do this. You can be a scientist. You can be a doctor. You can be whatever you're trying to do. And then there's the psychosocial, the socialization to science. The STEM world is very different in a lot of ways from like normal society, how we do things. So socialization of how do you approach people at meetings? What's the standard? What's the rule in this specific discipline about authorship? What is the procedures of publishing papers? Things like that, that people aren't born knowing how the publication process works. I've published papers and I still don't know how the publication process works. So it's just really important to like get people accustomed to that and helping them build their professional identity, particularly for people from marginalized communities. This is really important to show them that their professional identity and their personal identities can coexist and they do not have to leave one behind to get the other. That can be really, really important. And then of course, modeling good behaviors, which is the tough thing. If you want to show your mentees work-life balance, you also have to have work-life balance. If you want to show your mentee positive self-talk, you also need to use positive self-talk. So people are going to do what they see. And then the last thing is self-efficacy. So this is that confidence. There's a couple of ways that people build self-efficacy. There's mastery, where you've done this before, so you can do it again. You feel like you can do it again. The way that you can help with this is giving people small steps that are achievable so that they can build confidence before moving on to something more complex. There's the vicarious experience. So if someone sees someone that they identify with doing something, this is one way that peer mentoring can be really good, because then you have someone in the peer group succeeding and you could say, oh yeah, my other mentee did this, so you could do this. It's all going to be great. And then there's the social persuasion, which mentors have a lot of say in. That's basically just verbal encouragement. If someone that you respect says that you did a good job, you're going to believe that you did a good job. And then one thing that kind of isn't as much under control as a mentor is the emotional and physiological state. But it's important to have that in mind, that it might not be anything to do with the situation. It might be something else. It might be depression. It might be anxiety. There's a lot of other factors that people have in their lives. And so it can be really important to just think about that and acknowledge that that could be a possibility. And if you have a open communication, that might be something that the student might bring up to you at some point. So it's just good to have that in the back of your mind, that it could be related to some larger issue that they may down the line want to talk about. Okay, so now I have a scenario for us. So if we will, I think you have the breakout room set up, right, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put in the chat the scenario. So does everyone see that link there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if everyone can click that link, and you're going to read the scenario, and then Paul's going to break us up into groups. And I want you to talk about the scenario and look at the guiding questions for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back. So does anyone want to share what y'all talked about in your groups?
Yeah, I can go.
Okay.
I was with Nye and Billy, and we got through the first two questions, and we were on the second question. Let me see. I don't remember what we said were the main themes of the case study, but I know the second question, what should the mentor do now? We were saying the mentor could kind of investigate with the mentee how much they know about the mentee, the student who wanted to go into medical school, if they knew the process of what going into medical school was. So kind of asking that student, hey, you have this big term goal. So do you know the short-term goals to get to that big term goal
Great.
of going to medical school?
Awesome. Anyone else want to share?
We kind of talked about building common ground with both students, finding the topics that you could talk about that were applicable to both, and then building skills as a subset of mentorship and how that's beneficial regardless of the student's career.
Excellent. Did you discuss any skills specifically?
I don't think we kind of got cut off.
Yeah, it's okay. It was a short discussion. Anyone else have anything to add?
I would add a little bit because I was kind of like that student who were in undergrad research, but also like pre-med and didn't know a clue of what I wanted to do. I was like med school, PA school, grad school. So it was very confusing. So having a mentor is definitely helpful. But one of the things we talked about was just asking the question to the student. Do you know what it's like going to med school? Have you shadowed any like MD? Have you consider any other career profession that you could be going, because they did MD and PhD too that the student could be going, which would involve also graduate school. So even though the mentor didn't feel like she know a lot about medical school and didn't have much to offer, just opening up the discussion could have offered some of the potential things that she could have offered to that student.
Excellent. Anyone else? All right, looks like everyone has said everything. Yeah, I think that all of those things are really great. There are ways that you can start conversations, open up that door to communication. And I think in my group, we talked about connecting them to other people. So if you are in this position of power, you probably have a wider network than an undergraduate student. You can connect them to people. So the important thing is that if someone is doing a different path than you or communicates different than you or what have you, just finding common ground, finding a way that you can help them, asking them what they need, and trying to figure out how to give that to them or find someone that can give that to them, that pretty much is the best thing that you can do as a mentor. So that was just a very super condensed version of our mentor development training. Ours is actually 3 hours and that was 30 minutes. So that's why I was talking so fast and why our discussion was so short. Usually it's like 2 hours of discussion, but hopefully that gives you at least some tools or some starting points of how you can build a better mentoring philosophy and work with students. So thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Jasmin, for telling us more about Marseille and about mentorship as well. I think we'll definitely be reaching out to you for some other stuff as far as our mentors and mentees. And it's great to have you as a resource as well. Thanks for joining us.